Hey everybody, I have a video here for you today, and this is a good one. We are going to go down into present-day Alabama to one of the most ancient and probably one of the most important early pyramid mound cities in the ancient United States. And I say revealed in the title, mainly because there is not one darn thing on YouTube about this. And this appears to be lost history at its best, but we are going down into Bessemer, Alabama, just southwest of Birmingham. And there is a water park in this area right here. But what existed here, maybe stretching back as far as 4,000 or 5,000 years ago originally. And there was work done here in 1934 and some amazing pics taken. And I try to present new information on all these sites. Well, this is new information for sure. But right in this area, and I'm just going to do a quick fade in and fade out here, but right in this area, a few thousand people lived here. There was mounds here, and there is no information about this on YouTube, and information about this just appears to be lost to time and history and apathy. But here is just a comparison of a diagram in Google Earth and where I think these structures were originally located. And you notice up here, the railroad went right by this one right here. But this is just a little look at where I think these were originally located. And this has been totally lost to history. Notice the railroad goes right by that one right there. But I think that is the location of some very old structures in present-day Alabama. Now, on these pyramid mound cities, usually there is a lot of information. Usually there's a lot of videos on YouTube. Usually the state has it marked off as a historical site, and there's a park there and an information center. Well, this just appears to be totally swept under the rug. This is called the Talley Mounds just because the people who own the property were named Talley. It says the Talley Mounds, or the Bessemer Mounds, or the Jonesboro Mounds. I mean, these don't even have a specific name, for Pete's sake. Were a group of prehistoric Indian mounds on the bank of the Valley Creek close to the site, which was settled as Jonesboro in 1813, though the site may have been inhabited by Paleo or woodland Indians as early as 5,000 years ago. The mounds themselves are believed to have been constructed about 1100 AD or about 400 years before Moundville Mounds in Hale County were built. It says the site is thought to have held a village of up to 1,000 inhabitants, and frankly, I think the people who excavated here, who did work here, I don't think they were sure what they found. I don't think there was a lot of information on ancient America, and frankly, there was really no opinions and just a generic excavation that was done here. But thank goodness there was some incredible pics taken. Stuff that is totally unique to anything we have seen in this Ancient America series, so why don't we look at those right now? Now here is an artist depiction, really the only one I could find, of what these may have looked like. And here you see a stairway coming off the center, and I will show you photographic verification that there was stairways. But one thing, reading about this from the work that was done about 80 years ago, they all say the Bessemer site is related to the mounds at Moundville in Alabama, although older, and they might be many, many centuries older. Now, you noticed on that Google Earth fade-in that the one mound was right next to the railroad tracks. Well, here is a pic. I think this comes from 1934 when these mounds were totally taken out, but there was work done on them as far as excavation by people who kind of knew what they were doing, it seems. Now here's a website from the University of Alabama, and it gives descriptions of the mounds here from the 1934 excavation work. So if you want to read this, it is full of information. Now here is that photo of the mounds being taken apart, and let's just look at all these pics here. Now this pic here is just a tiny remnant of that mound left towards the end of the excavation work. What did they find when they removed everything? And you can tell here, what is this? This is limestone. This is rock. And this is totally unique as far as a pic we have seen from ancient America, and I find that fascinating. Now, when they took out this mound, What did they find down here? Well, they found evidence of previous mounds and a foundation of rock. And here you see somebody standing. So this was laid out throughout the foundation of an original structure, and this becomes one big mystery. Now here is another pic. This is a little confusing, but it seems they dug into something and then found something else here that was maybe more original to the building of the place. Now I believe this is mound number 1 when the whole mound was totally removed. And this is what they found underneath it. This looks like about 3 or 4 feet high of different types of stone, forming the foundation of an original structure here, because this doesn't seem to be aligned with what the mound was here. Now here is just a little bit of the pottery they found here, and these weren't really found in the mounds but just around the area. Arrowheads were found here. Here is a nearby burial mound that was probably put in here in more recent centuries. Here is the original foundation with post holes, many post holes for the wood that was maybe supporting the original mound that was put in here. And I am just speculating wildly here. Now here is an artifact that was found, and just some little bit of stuff carved in it, and I find that pattern interesting and it looks familiar. Some vases that were found, a bowl, and here is some pics of one of those mounds. This appears to be perfectly formed. Clay, burnt clay, different layers of rock, soil, sand made up these, and then it appears overgrowth just covered them over time. Here is the group of workers. Here is a pic of the site of the mounds being taken out and the railroad being put in here, and they had to put a railroad right through the middle of this prehistoric site. Here is pics of the mounds being excavated. Here is one of the mounds, and I find these all pretty fascinating. Why isn't there anything on YouTube about this? I have no idea. Isn't this sexy enough for some uploaders? They won't get enough views for their ad dollars. Well, I find this extremely fascinating, and I find it lost history, and I think some people who upload history videos should get on the Ancient America bandwagon, because I think you're missing out. We have stuff like this that there is nothing on YouTube about. Why is that? I don't know. This place looks pretty cool. I'm glad to be doing this video. Here are post holes found when they dug down and found a base of a structure. More of that. Other stuff found. Excavation work. A stairway coming off one of these mounds, and that is pretty unique to what we have seen in ancient America. I think we are looking at a different time period, an earlier time period, and then this place was lived at for centuries, and it may have started as early as 5,000 years ago, in my opinion. Appears to be like a little fireplace. Work when the mounds were cleared. More work. What they found when they removed everything. And here you see one of the mounds when it was totally gone. And what did this reveal? It seemed earlier structures, foundations of earlier structures that have no apparent relation to the more modern one that was taken out by the workers about 80 years ago. Here's another pic, what they found when they got down to the bottom layer. Here are more pics, and it seems there were structures built on top of structures here. Find that one pretty interesting. But they figure some of these areas, stockade fences were put up here. Here is a diagram of what was found. But I find these pics of these rocks forming the foundation of these structures that were taken out. I think this just opens up a whole new series of questions. what was here originally, how old are some of these places, how many of these places around ancient America have some original foundations that are like this. Well, that is all up for speculation, and I think people should be looking into this site a little more because this is very mysterious. But here is another look at an original foundation made of limestone, and this rock came from the rock beds above the creek, I guess. And they were all different sizes, and there's no real pattern to this. So what is going on here? Is this just, I don't know. I find this fascinating. Now, when you Google the Bessemer Mounds, this place comes up. This is the Memorial Mound, and about 28 years ago, a gentleman by the name of Clyde Booth tried to start a modern-day mausoleum, and I will leave a link below, but this has nothing to do with the mounds I am talking about today. This is kind of a creepy, gruesome story, and I will leave a link below. But this guy here tried to start a present-day burial site, and this is just weird, but has nothing to do with the site I'm talking about today. Now, the stuff, as far as recent things written on this site, it's really limited, but I did find this article. It says, Bessemer Indian Mound restoration work planned some 200 years before the arrival of Columbus, one of the first permanent settlements in Jefferson County, was abandoned along Valley Creek in Bessemer. Now there are efforts to bring its history back to life. The project focuses on restoration of Bessemer Indian Mounds, a collection of 3 earthworks which form the center of a village of thatched dwellings where nearly 2,000 people once resided in a pre-Columbian period. The prehistoric mound builders from the Mississippi area were the ancestors of modern-day tribes, including the Creeks. Around 900 A.D., the Mississippian culture developed and spread through the eastern United States, primarily along the river valleys. The Bessemer site is related to the mounds at Moundville, although older, and if there are foundations under these mounds that were built about 1,000 years ago, and then there's foundations under those foundations, well, do we have a site here that goes back maybe as far as 5,000 years? That seems to be the earliest dating at this site. But we have sites such as Poverty Point that go back maybe 3,500 years. We have Watson Brake that goes back maybe 5,400 years in that lower Mississippi area. This place, well, I think this could add a whole new chapter to the ancient America. Maybe this comes from 4,500 years ago originally, and then the site was just built upon. There are a lot of questions here. Here is one more website that talks about possible restoration, but I don't know how they're going to restore something that doesn't exist anymore. And here is an old pic, and you see the little stairway on top of this mound. Maybe as many as 3 or 4 stages of building in this mound. I think this just opens up tremendous amounts of questions. Certainly a lot more questions than answers, but that is a good thing. Now here is some of the limited information I found on the Bessemer site. This comes from a book, Prehistoric Indians of the Southeast, and I will leave links below, of course. It says, Douglas Mackenzie, 1964, and Christopher Peebles, 1971, have associated the Bessemer site with the Moundville phase, thus equating the ceremonial center with the mature Mississippian period. However, a review of the data recovered from Bessemer indicates that the major occupation of this settlement dates to the early Mississippian period, and this locality was abandoned before the mature Mississippian florescence at Moundville. Comparison of the material culture from these 2 sites further suggests that there may be a Bessemer-like early Mississippian component at Moundville. So there's a lot of questions with Moundville also, and I will link that video at the end. It says, the early Mississippian placement of the Bessemer site is supported by the presence of large amounts of West Jefferson clay tempered pottery and by the constellation of early Mississippian traits like those previously discussed from sites in northeastern Alabama, Tennessee, and Georgia. DeJarnette and Wimberly in 1941 prepared a trait list comparing Bessemer to Moundville and some of the mature Mississippian sites in the Tennessee Valley. Moundville and the Tennessee Valley sites were found to share a large number of traits. Prominent among these were artifacts and motifs associated with the southeastern ceremonial complex. It is important to note that, although Bessemer's site is strategically situated between Moundville and the Tennessee Valley, not one southeastern ceremonial complex artifact was recovered during its excavation. One can only conclude that Bessemer was abandoned before the appearance and spread of this manifestation, inasmuch as these vessels and fragments of such vessels were intrusive into the final stage of the burial mound and were found around its outer perimeter. These data indicate that the Bessemer site should be considered to represent, like Obion, Hiwassee Island, and Macon, one of the major early Mississippian settlements in the southeast. One of the most perplexing problems concerning the West Jefferson and Bessemer phases is the absence or near absence of burials. Only 25 burials were found at Bessemer, while sites like Moundville have yielded thousands of human burials. Now, besides the pics I showed earlier, it was tough to find some good evidence of what was found here, but I went to the Alabama Historical Society, the digital archives, and I found some stuff here. But this is a burial. This doesn't look anything like the mound builder's burial. I think we have a deep history at this site. That is just what my intuition says. And what else was found here? Deep down in some original layers, a burial of a dog. And that is about the 5th or 6th place we have had a dog burial. That seems to be very ancient. Now here is another artist's depiction of what this place may have looked like. And this place just looks weird to me. Seems we have a few different styles of platform mounds. And this place, the whole history of it just seems odd. And when looking at this pic, why was a railroad put in literally right up to this ancient platform pyramid that had this underneath? Well, this is all very odd. Let's do a little more reading. Was anybody here excavating before 1934? It says, and this comes from Exploring Southeastern Archaeology by Patricia Galloway. As the 3 mounds of Bessemer are known as the domiciliary, platform, ceremonial, and burial mounds. They are arranged in an arc around an open area. The earliest work at the site was done in the 1880s by the Smithsonian Institution, with some digging on top of each of the mounds. The main excavations at Bessemer occurred in 1934, 35, and 39-40. This included complete excavation of all 3 mounds, as well as extensive work to find and excavate the submound and associated features. So the Smithsonian was here in the 1880s, and a railway was built right up to this site, and I believe they used material from this in construction of roads and other things nearby. But what did they find here? It seems little artifacts were found here in 1934. And has there been any other sites that the Smithsonian has built a railway right up next to? Well, I have tons of questions now. Now, those of you who like to look around on Google Earth, do I find anything else in Bessemer weird? Well, I find a lot of things strange. I'll just point out one of them here. There is a large cleared area here. And this just looks weird to me. There is a large mound here, and they seem to be clearing it. And I would just think, well, that appears to me to be a natural hill. And I look at it again, and it's aligned perfectly to north. And I see earthworks in the area. But this covers an area just slightly smaller than the large pyramid at Cahokia, Monk's Mound. Is this a natural hill? Well, probably, but it's perfectly aligned to north, and it looks weird to me. And there's other things right around here that appear to be ancient things right under the ground. But right in this area here, maybe going back as far as 4,000 or 5,000 years ago, there was an important ancient city. There were some pretty amazing excavation pics taken in 1934. but you would never know an ancient city there existed, mainly because there's nothing on YouTube, or no websites, or no state parks, or no information center, and this place has been totally lost to history. Nothing on YouTube until today. Hope you thought that was cool, and you all have a very nice day.